Welcome everyone. Today we are speaking about a very important subject which is very close to my heart. Most of us believe that if we lose weight, we are going to be healthy and we can ward off all diseases that so-called fat people would get. It'll surprise you to know that out of all the heart attacks that we see, about 40% are seen in thin individuals who also don't have any bad habits like so-called smoking and alcohol, and some of them even do exercise, but they still land up getting a heart attack. Why would that be true? That's because some people are actually thin looking from outside, but they can be actually fat inside. So that's called TOFI, thin outside, fat inside. So how do we know whether we are fat inside or not fat inside, irrespective of what we see on the outside? Similarly, there are very fat people who can actually be metabolically healthy from inside. So that's actually fat outside and thin inside, FOTI. So basically what's most important, what is inside your body. How do we even judge what is inside because it's not visible? So today we're going to see the blood tests which are really the markers for optimal internal health, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you a list of blood tests that all of you should be doing, and I'll tell you the optimal markers for you so that you can judge how good or bad you are inside. The first is something called as HSCRP, high sensitivity CRP. What is this? This is basically a protein made by the liver, and it basically indicates internal inflammation. Higher the CRP, the more ill you are, the more inflammation you have inside your body. So basically it detects chronic inflammation. So if you have internal inflammation, you can get a host of diseases starting from diabetes to blood pressure to cancers to heart disease. So high CRP is basically seen with obesity, heart disease, diabetes, even Alzheimer's disease, something called as leaky gut, which means that you have some openings inside your gut linings. So you have bad molecules going into your body, creating sepsis and inflammation. Infections are obviously high CRP would come in that. Cancers, sleep disorders like sleep apnea. So there's a host of disorders which are indicated by a high CRP. That is why we want the CRP to be as low as possible. You want to dial in your CRPs, not allow it to go up. What are the optimal CRP ranges? The ideal CRP, if you do a CRP, you should aim for an ideal of less than 1 milligram per liter. An average would be 1 to 3, then you're kind of okay in health. And if it's more than 3, then it's a dangerous CRP. And then we want to dial in the CRP as much as possible. At the end of the talk, I'll tell you the optimal ways to get these tests into balance, and that will speak at the end. But these are the normal values, and we want you to be as closer to 1 as possible in your blood test. In fact, if you're on a diet program, if you're on a whole food plant-based program, we expect these high values to start becoming lower and lower over time. In fact, you can even measure it by a serial blood test from the same laboratory, and you'll be able to judge where you are in that scale. The second test, which is again being done very commonly, is hemoglobin A1C, which is just called A1C or HbA1c. What is that? Basically, it's a measure of blood glucose over the preceding 3 months. So it's not today's glucose, it is a glucose average over the last 3 months. It's supposed to be a good indicator of metabolic health. The problem with HbA1c is when the HbA1c is really very high, it may already have been too late. So when you find an HbA1c of someone, let's say who's come to me and we get it done and it's already 7, the ship has already sailed. It's already too late. So you want to pick up the HbA1c earlier and earlier and earlier. What are the optimal ranges for HbA1c? You should target an optimal. If you're less than 5 on an HbA1c, that's going to be the ideal optimal range that we want you to be on. Normal is less than 5.7. Pre-diabetes is when you're between 5.7 and 6.4, and diabetes is when you're more than 6.4. So as you go on a whole food plant-based diet, as you go on intermittent fasting, which I strongly advocate, you'll find your HbA1c starts going down. So whoever is on intermittent fasting, we would request everyone to monitor the HbA1cs over time and see where you are. If you have a higher and higher and higher HbA1c, that means things are not working, something has to change. So this is the optimal marker. When you are lesser and lesser and lesser on HbA1c, you'll find that not only diabetes gets prevented, HbA1c when it's low, it basically means you do not have insulin resistance. And when you don't have insulin resistance, then a host of other diseases like heart disease or strokes or some of the cancers, PCODs, acne, some blackening of your face, acanthosis nigricans, all of them would actually start getting reduced as well. Now, one more test is fasting sugar, which most of us would know. Obviously, fasting sugar is something that most of us would do in a health checkup. You land up without any food and you do your fasting. Problem is, it's the single worst parameter to measure, because when your fasting sugar or your postprandial sugar actually changes, that then again, if the ship has already sailed, it's already been too late. So the medical science would fail people if you pick them up only in this end stage of the problem. When your fasting sugars go up, that means you're already in full-blown diabetes, and you don't want to catch people there. You want to catch people before they get the complications. The optimal fasting sugar for all of us is less than 90. Normal is about less than 100. Pre-diabetes would be less than 125 and diabetes would be more than 126. So you want to pick them up earlier and earlier, as we said, and we want you to be on the optimal range as much as possible. Postprandial sugar is the sugar that you measure 2 hours after eating a carbohydrate-rich meal. Less than 140 would be an ideal measurement on that. But again, as we said, fasting sugar, postprandial sugar, not a good method of judging metabolic health inside, but it's something which is most commonly done. Fasting insulin would be really the go-to method. It is a hormone that actually pushes sugars into your cell, though it does a lot of other things, but this is the main purpose of insulin. And when your insulin is high, that's when trouble really starts to come, and that is a sign of insulin resistance. It is the most important test to be done because it rises long before the fasting sugar changes, long before you start getting diabetes. In fact, a higher and higher insulin level in the blood would indicate a future trouble. So if you're getting it today, it's time to change. It's time to take your life seriously. You're already becoming sick. Though on the outside you might not feel sick, everything is fine. You're going to office, you're going to things, you're having your beers and alcohol and you're smoking, you're taking things for granted, but things are really already starting to become bad. And it's just a matter of time, things will spill over. It's an early warning sign of metabolic disease. Where do you want to be? Optimal, between 2 and 6 units. Normal is if you're less than 10. Warning signs is between 11, 20, and red zone, very bad, is more than 20. Even though the range which you'll find in the laboratory paper which comes to you, the normal range which is written on the lab test is a very big wide range, but don't go by that. Go by this list which we are giving, and this is typically what you want to be. The lower insulins you have, the more insulin sensitive you will be, the lesser diabetes future possibilities would be there. Again, it's not only a marker of diabetes. The lower fasting insulins would also prevent a lot of other complications. For example, you're less likely to get Alzheimer's disease, less likely to get brain disease and brain fog and memory loss and concentration issues. You're less likely to get fatty livers. You're less likely to get heart disease and blockage of your coronary arteries. You're less likely to get kidney disease and hypertension, polycystic ovary disease. So a lot of host of benefits in reducing your fasting insulin. And this fasting insulin very beautifully reduces if you have a whole food plant-based diet coupled with intermittent fasting. Restrict your calorie intake, and very importantly, get into whole foods which have a lot of fiber. It's important to get into fiber-rich foods which actually reduce the insulin resistance, and obviously it also improves the gut bacteria, gives you a lot of phytonutrients, lot of chemicals which are so good for antioxidants, tocopherols, carotenoids, so many good things that come out of this, and that happens to lower your insulin levels dramatically over time. So you can monitor yourself also serially through this. One more is LDL cholesterol, which all of us know as the bad cholesterol. Problem is it's the single, again, very bad predictor of heart disease. Most of us believe that that's what we should be looking for in a lipid profile, but no. The better test is triglyceride to HDL ratio. In the lipid profile, LDL cholesterol is not as big a pointer to a heart disease as the triglyceride to HDL ratio. But still, if you look at LDL cholesterol per se, ideal is less than 100 to 150 average, and high would be more than 150. But as we said, it's not really the main determinant of heart disease. So don't look at it. Look more at fasting insulins and look at very importantly, triglyceride to HDL ratio. So look for triglyceride, look for HDL, and look at the gap between these two values. It's the best way to check for insulin resistance, especially if you don't have a fasting insulin in your kitty, you have not done it, or some labs are not doing it. Internationally, it's not a very widely available test, though in India it's freely available. But if you can't do it, the basic test, triglyceride to HDL ratio, is an excellent way to look for how much disease you have inside your body. If this ratio is high, then your risk for heart attack increases 16-fold. Can you even believe that? About 1600% just with the switching of a triglyceride to HDL ratio. So this is a marker you should focus on. And how do you dial down? How do you reduce your TG to HDL ratio? Again, the same answer. Intermittent fasting, beautiful method to reduce. I have personally reduced my triglyceride to HDL ratio. It's almost 1:1 now, which is where we want to be. For me, it was 4:1 to start with. So 4:1 triglyceride to HDL ratio. I've reduced it to 1:1 just by two things. One is intermittent fasting, and one is quitting animal foods and looking at whole food plant-based diets, which give us everything that we need to bridge the gap between triglyceride to HDL ratio. Ideally, you want it to be 1:1 or lower. For example, if your HDL is 60 and your triglyceride is 60, that becomes 1:1. And that's really where you want to be. If you're between 1:1 to 2:1, you're kind of okay, average. But if you're more than 2:1, then you really need to worry, and your chances for a lot of metabolic diseases really go up. So don't look at intermittent fasting and whole food plant-based diet as a weight loss method. It is basically going to change your blood parameters, and that is how we want you to monitor once in 6 months or so. Look all the profile and see where you are. Make a table and then make a graph and see if you can change that. So that's very important. One thing that we usually do now is something called a HOMA-IR value. HOMA-IR value, which is homeostatic model assessment for insulin resistance. Long name, big name, looks scary, not scary at all. It's just a calculator. It's not a test that you can ask your lab to do. What you ask the lab to do is fasting insulin, fasting glucose, or fasting sugar, and you put it, you multiply that and divide by 405, you get a value which is HOMA-IR value. That's the simple, that obviously all of us do it ourselves. We can do it. Or you want to put it on a calculator, we have an online calculator available. There's a link for that calculator. You can just put it on the website, put it there, and you get a value, a chart like this. So they ask you to put the insulin on that, they ask you to put the glucose on that, and they give you the calculation on its own. And that's usually an online calculator you can use as well. HOMA-IR for me is a very, very good method of assessing how bad or good you are from inside. So when you do an intermittent fasting regimen, some people will say, doctor, no, my weight loss is not happening. I've got stuck at a particular number. I'm getting frustrated. I've got a plateau. Weight is not moving. What do I do? I tell them, don't worry, do your blood tests. And they're surprised that, oh, the blood tests are changing. I'm improving on the correct side. So we will say, see, now you don't have to worry. Even if from the outside your weight is not reducing, inside body is changing towards health and happiness. And that is why it gives you less worry, because you see changes inside. Ideally, the HOMA-IR has to be less than 1. Early insulin resistance is when your HOMA-IR is near about 2 or more. And significant insulin resistance is when your HOMA-IR is more than 3. And that's really how we look at all the blood values for HOMA-IR as well. Now, just finally, the last line, finally, the test to be done in a nutshell for metabolic health. You want to do a HSCRP, you want to do a fasting lipid profile, you want to do an HbA1c, you want to do a fasting insulin, you want to do a fasting sugar, and you want to do a postprandial sugar. These are overall the tests, which is a battery of tests, which tell us not only the internal body health, they also tell us indirectly how healthy your liver is. For example, if your fasting insulin is high, your HbA1c is high, you know your liver is also going to be unhealthy. Your heart is going to be also unhealthy. So this is not a heart-specific test or a liver-specific test or a kidney-specific test. If you realize, we have not even asked you to do a liver profile. We have not even asked you to do a ECG. We have not even asked you to do an angiography or a kidney test. This is not organ-specific test. This is a whole body checkup, so to speak. So this will point out what are the other organs doing. So it's basically a smart thing for us to know, how do you judge brain health, for example? Just by this. If your fasting insulin is high, your brain is not healthy. If your HbA1c is high, it's not healthy. If your HOMA-IR is high, your brain is not healthy. So indirectly, everything comes down to these basic tests, very easy, available in all laboratories. So my request to all of you, judge yourself not from the weighing scale. Judge yourself from what your blood is doing. Thank you very much. I hope you had a good time, and I hope you see this video and see for yourself how healthy you are and your near and dear ones happen to be. Thank you very much.